What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. This is the channel where we sit down and cover different comic book stories from Marvel, DC, and other comic book companies out there. But today, we are going to jump back over to Marvel Comics, and we're going to pick back up with the Ultimate Marvel Universe once again. And we're going to pick up with the Ultimates this time, and we pick up with the Ultimates after Ultimate Fallout. Now, Nick Fury is back in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. once again, but there are some new things happening with the Ultimates that we are going to see throughout this run. But we also see the return of one character in this book right here. And this character is actually a fan favorite character. So I do hope you like today's video, and if you do, please hit that like button down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. But I do hope you enjoy today's video. The opening of this book, we pick up with Reed Richards, who is now known as the Maker, where we see him hanging around with other people, talking about how this is the perfect place to release the Dome. The Dome is going to be the main point of this story, but we are going to see some interesting things for this Dome by Reed Richards. Then we pick up with Nick Fury, and remember, he's back in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is picking up after Ultimate Fallout, also bringing in elements of Jeff Loeb's new Ultimates and Hickman's Ultimate Thor, where we see Nick Fury going over what is going on over the world, starting with Asgard being on Earth now. The European government sent in their Excalibur team because some Asgardians stole some huge amount of beer. Also, there is another problem going on in Seer, which is the Southeast Asian Republic area. Hawkeye is going down there to handle that issue in his own book, and we are going to cover that book next week. Then we proceed on to another issue that is going on between two countries that is about to break out into war. Now, Iron Man was supposed to be there with the S.H.I.E.L.D. team to handle that problem, except the man is in Tokyo flirting with a woman, and his new assistant had to remind him that, hey man, you are supposed to be helping out S.H.I.E.L.D. Where we see that Iron Man has a piloting system where he is able to control a suit that he has on one of the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarriers from his case in his car. Getting back over to Asgard's beer problem, we see that things are about to go down. But something I want to remind you guys is that your countries each had their own captain. Captain Britain, Captain Spain, and so on. But they were sent into Asgard because of the beer that was stolen. And Thor was sent in by S.H.I.E.L.D. to handle the tension between the two sides. So when Thor tried to make amends with Captain Britain pours the beer on the floor in front of Thor. And this is a sign of disrespect, and for Nick Fury, who is watching this, knows that this is about to start a fight. And so now Nick Fury has to worry about three different situations across the world. Asgard, the war between the two countries, and also Seer. But while watching this fight, a couple things happen. The first is that Iron Man breaks into one of the ships of the two countries who are at war to stop it. Except when he gets in there, there is no one controlling the ship. It is moving remotely, and also with the fight between Thor and Captain Britain leads into the steps of the Dome that was made by Reed Richards. But before we see more of those things happen, you have Hawkeye checking in from Seer, where he's letting Nick Fury know that everything is falling apart out there as well. Before Hawkeye can give us more details, something happens and they lose connection with him. Then with Iron Man, he tells Nick Fury about the fact the ship has no one controlling it. So when Iron Man breaks open different parts of the ship, he finds his tech in there. But this tech came from his company is a nuke, and it goes off. wiping the area out for one, but sending a shock to Tony Stark, who was controlling the suit from his car in Tokyo. So getting back over to the base of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury lost the signal what was happening with Iron Man thanks to the nuke. That begins the process of everything falling apart, because after that you have Thor and Captain Britain decide to see what is up with the dome. They get grabbed into the dome, and we see that by the beginning of this book to this point now, inside the dome, the city has evolved quickly and time moves differently there. And so when you have an agent asking Nick Fury what he wants to do next, Nick Fury has no idea what to do because everything is falling apart left and right. But then the story gives us the background of how the city was built. Remember, in the beginning of our video, we saw that it started with Reed Richards and some people. Well, after that, we learned that they started to reproduce and have children of their own. Now remember that time moves faster inside the dome. It then got to the point where they began to create their own children. Now at first, the children they created looked wrong or imperfect, but then it began to make more. Each person in the dome has one single task they must do, and that is it. But after 900 years has passed inside the dome, they built the city, and the city is a living being. Switching back to Iron Man, we learned that after the shock he received from the nuke from his Iron Man suit that was with S.H.I.E.L.D., he went into cardiac arrest, and luckily his new assistant that he forced to be called Jarvis has saved his butt. Now most times after you go into cardiac arrest, you want to rest, except for Iron Man, he has no time to rest since he saw someone use his tech to build a nuke and set the nuke off. And so now Iron Man has to take his backup suit and go visit the Kratos Club, this organization he joined back in Ultimate Fallout that believes that they have the right to make tough choices for the entire world because they have a lot of money. Picking up with Thor, Captain Britain, and the other captains who are working together to fight against the forces of the Maker, we see them getting wrecked, that they don't even stand a chance against these children of the Maker. Remember, on the outside of the dome, time progressed normal, but inside the dome, time was rapidly passing by, and the Maker's people have evolved beyond what a regular human is. So when Thor tries to take them down, they just come right back stronger. It gets to the point where we think that Thor and the captains have all failed. It leads into a moment where you have the children of the dome begin to test on Thor and the captains, but the children are focusing more on Thor because he is different, because he is a god. So it intrigues them to the point the city, which is a living being, calls the Maker, and the Maker tells the children that Thor is a god. With that knowledge, they evolved again to the point they understand what kind of god Thor is, but also picks up on Asgard. With them locating Asgard, the Maker tells them to go and bring down Asgard. Now Captain Britain wants to run back home to Europe to get more help, but Thor and the other captains want to help the Asgardians, so they go their separate ways. Now when Thor gets to Asgard to help his fellow Asgardians, he is already too late. The Asgardians have failed left and right. The children of the Maker are killing them left and right. And so what he has to do now is take his son Modi, the child he had with Hela back in New Ultimate storyline, to the World Tree. The reason why the World Tree is so important is because there is a hidden realm known as the Room with No Doors. He puts Modi in there to protect him and to live on for Asgard. Thor hands his son Modi his hammer as a way to get out later, but Thor and Loki continue to fight against the forces of the Maker. After all of that, you would think everyone is dead, except we learn that Thor is the last person alive. Iron Man comes in and saves Thor at the very last second, but Asgard is gone once again, leaving Thor on his own once again on Earth. Now, picking up a couple of days after the fall of Asgard, we actually pick up with Tony showing Thor his hidden vault of things he has found over the years. We don't get a tour of the room, but what we do see is that he has Thor's old suit when he first showed up in Ultimate Comics. Remember that when Thor first arrived in Ultimate Marvel Universe, he was powerless, and the Europe version of S.H.I.E.L.D. gave him their tech to make him a hero. With his hammer gone, he needs a weapon to help them fight the Maker. But there is another reason for him picking up his old hammer and body gear for this story. But picking up a week after Asgard has fallen, we learn one thing from a page. Captain Britain and some members of Excalibur went back to fight against the Maker and his forces at the Dome, and they failed. Except now we are seeing S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Ultimates about to take their turn at trying to take down the Maker in the Dome. Let me tell you guys now, this was a huge mistake for them because they brought everything with them, and before sending out heroes, they tried firing missiles and other stuff. Of course, that failed, and so it is time for Plan B, which is send in Iron Man and Thor, the two heroes who can actually fly out there and cause some havoc in the air. Except again, when it comes to the Maker and his forces, they are so advanced, they are still struggling against him. Heck, it gets to the point that the Maker forces actually invades the helicarrier that Nick Fury and the Ultimates are using. They get wrecked on there, and they were able to push the forces off the ship, but then you have Nick Fury go to Plan C. The Ultimates brought a nuke with them, and they fired the nuke at the Dome, hoping to wrap everything up in a matter of seconds. Well, of course, the nuke to the Dome is outdated because the Maker and his forces are so advanced, and they just walk through the blast like it is nothing to them. And so after all of their plans failed, you have Black Widow, who is Monica Chang, the ex-wife of Nick Fury, convince him that they need to pull back and come up with a new plan. Now remember that Thor's old hammer had the ability to teleport, and so that was the second reason why Iron Man gave him the old hammer, as an scapegoat just in case things failed. Well, here we are. Things are falling apart for S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Ultimates, and so they have to leave, which gives us Thor using his hammer to teleport everyone away to protect them. Later that day, you have a bro moment with Thor and Iron Man, where Iron Man tells Thor about how bad it is for them with all of the damage they have taken, except this leads to Thor telling Iron Man how much he respects him and that he hopes that Iron Man will tell stories about him after he dies. That is when Iron Man realizes that Thor is planning to teleport back to where the Dome is and fight them again, which he does because this is him trying to get revenge for the loss of Asgard. Is Thor not thinking straight? More of him upset with Asgard being gone once again. Now when Thor gets there, he does not just smash his way into the place, instead he walks in there. But also when he does, of course, Reed Richards, aka the Maker, gets word from the city, the living being, that hey, Thor is here. And so of course the Maker believes it is time to do something about Thor. Now Thor walks into a room where we see that the Maker and his people are now growing children to be perfect, where the nurse there tells Thor and us that the Dome was made for the Maker and the people, but the city, the living being, was made for these perfect children. But she tells him that they are keeping people like him down the hallway. That is where Thor finds out that Captain Britain is still alive, where we thought he was killed, since they said earlier that Captain Britain and Excalibur tried to take down the Maker and failed. Before they are able to escape, that is when you have the Maker appear, where he tells Thor and Captain Britain that he is going to send Thor back with a message. For Thor, he can tell if he beats the Maker down, maybe everything will stop, and so Thor goes to attack the Maker. Now at first, this may seem like Thor is about to be put on the spotlight in this book and just be able to take everything down, except that is when the Maker sent in the first knife, one of his soldiers, who just brutally beats down on Thor. It wasn't even a challenge for this guy. Remember that Thor is the most powerful Ultimates member, and so seeing him getting beat down like this is painting a picture how bad this is for the heroes. This leads into the Maker showing Thor his face, and they were doing this scene like we did not know it was Reed Richards, even though we have books before this that implied that it was Reed Richards. Except he tells Thor about the deal the world will take and they don't have a choice. As long as the other countries stay away from the dome and the Maker and his people, they will not attack the other countries. So he leaves Thor in a bloody mess and has Captain Britain be the one to carry him back to S.H.I.E.L.D. Now let's remember that Asgard had fallen. All of the Asgardians except Thor and his son Modi died. Well, apparently Thor has become Valhalla, meaning that all of the lost souls of Asgardians all went into the body of Thor, that somehow he has become the afterlife for his people, where you have Odin tell Thor that he needs to continue the goal Odin had placed for Earth, making Earth in Odin's image, making it better. So Thor is never alone because all of his family and his friends are inside the body of Thor. Finally, to close on this book, you have Thor and Captain Britain go back to S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury, where you have Thor tell Nick Fury about the deal that Reed told was being made about staying away from each other. Finally, you have Thor tell Nick Fury that Reed Richards is the Maker. He has come back, and now a new problem for the world to handle. And this is where we are going to end today's video. So please hit that like button down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.